So welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to tell you, because we got a lot of information to cover. Normally I would say let's give everybody time to come on, but we have a lot of information to cover. And we're going to try to fit this in. Typically, Dr. Laszlo, publicist, told me he'd do 30-minute interviews, but a lot of things are changing in the world. A lot of things are shifting. So Dr. Laszlo, I pray that you will have patience with us and shift. The interview may go a little over 30 minutes. The session today is going to go an hour. So I'm going to do my preliminaries. Then we'll go ahead and just talk about the book. So welcome everyone again to the Institute for Global Transformations Global Changemakers Book Club. So the Institute for Global Transformation, our vision is a world working together to utilize the power, love, and wisdom of higher consciousness to benefit humanity and the planet. Our mission is to support transformations in consciousness and in the way humanity interacts with one another so as to bring about positive change in the world, individually and collectively. So how do we do that? So the IFGT is a community of change makers, and together we are making the world a better place for everyone. It is being said that there is a new humanity emerging, and the Institute for Global Transformation calls them the change makers. We come from all walks of life, all races, education, religions, socioeconomic status, age, and spiritual development. As change makers, we are transforming our personal lives to become our very best selves. And in doing so, we are creating a global transformation towards a more loving, a more purposeful, a more wise, inclusive, cooperative, and peaceful world. If you want to awaken all of humanity, then awaken all of yourself. Truly, the greatest gift you have to give is that of your own self-transformation. So we welcome, we ask you, we thank you for joining us. We ask you to tell a friend about the book club so that they can join us. It doesn't cost them anything. We feel that the best solutions to personal and societal challenges we each face in our day-to-day lives and our spiritual journey is to join a community of like-minded individuals who support one another. So your personal experience, the friends you invite to the book club, their personal experience will add to the wisdom of our community. It is our honor to thus have you here, and together we will strive to create joy, abundance, success, inner peace, and service to humanity and the planet. So, welcome again. And today, as I said, we're going to be discussing Dr. Laszlo's latest book, How Can We Build a Better World? The Worldshift Manual. And I'm looking at the book on my screen as I'm waiting for, I purchased a digital copy, I purchased the audio copy, now I'm waiting on my hard copy, but I see it on my screen. And at the top, it catches my attention because it says, together we can. And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna share that with you because and then I'll unshare, but this touched me. And so this is what we're going to be talking about. Together we can. How can we build a better world? And the Worldshift Manual. And I know that right prior to this, Dr. Laszlo had written another book called Global Shift Now, A Call to Evolution. And I remember he and I talking, and I remember promising him that we would take that book, Global Shift Now, and we would study it like a manual, and we would talk about it in our spiritual happy hours. So I was pleased when I got an email from his office back in December saying that he had written an expanded version or another book and put it in the form of a manual. And I tell you, the manual has step-by-step. This is not one of those books you read and you have to figure out what to do, or it's for discussion, but it's more than discussion. It's very practical, step by step, chapter by chapter. If you're going through this, like everyone else that's going through these crises, if you're asking yourself, what do we do? Then this book will lay that out. So today we're going to discuss the answers to the question that everyone on everyone's mind. How do we build a new post-pandemic, and now I'm going to add post-insurrection world while honoring the most cherished values and achievement of the past? Practical steps you'll get from the book that we can take right now to unveil and take in hand the collective destiny of humanity and our individual lives. Now, that foreword was actually written by Greg Braden, except for the part of the post-insurrection. I added that. So this is what we're going to do. And I want to briefly read the message of the book, and I'm going to then formally introduce Dr. Laszlo to those that have not been formally introduced to him. So the message of building a better world is this: we are in the midst of a global crisis. This is not just danger, it is opportunity. With the new spirit arising in national and international politics, we can join together and seize the opportunity to create a better world. To sit with folded hands, waiting for the crisis to take its course, is to entrust our destiny to the vagaries of fortune. To go back to where we were is not advisable and may not even be possible. But attempting to go forward is a realistic task. The outcome of the global crisis is not foreclosed. It is sensitive to our intentions, actions, and aspirations. The global crisis may prove to be a blessing in disguise. We have to cope with its dangers, but we can seize the opportunity it offers for creating a more united and sustainable world for ourselves and our children. So the Worldshift Manual presented in this book, and I urge you, if you haven't, download the book, download the audio, and purchase the hard copy. All three of them gives a different dynamic, but what's presented in this book is a practical guide to build a better world. It tells us how we can build it and what the role each of us is in building it. And I'm telling you, it lays it out. This is essential information in the critical time. So having said that, I'm gonna do the intro, the formal intro that comes with the book. But before I do the formal intro, I wanna do a personal statement. I met Dr. Laszlo last year after reading his book, Reconnecting to Source. Actually, Marianne had posted it on the site. Actually, it came in the newsletter. And it was a time when I was thinking about this whole thing of what can I do daily to stay connected to Source? And then here comes this book, Synchronicity. So I downloaded the book and I read it. And then I sent Marianne an email and said, hey, Marianne, is there a way we could, use this book as our first book? And she said, oh yeah, sure, Henry. The publicist of is on our book. So we could reach out to Dr. Laszlo, and again, Synchronicity. Dr. Laszlo agreed. Some of you remember he had a blackout in Tuscany, but we had already done the interview, he and I. So we were able to show the interview and everyone enjoyed it. Then we had him back in October. But this new book came out, and we were already on schedule to do our book club for this month, which is next week, and we have our author slated, and we're already promoting that. But when the call came from his office saying that he had this new book, I tried to figure out a way, and we talked to Marianne, how could we fit this in? Maybe I could just do a one-on-one interview with him. We could archive it and have people watch it on demand. And that's what we move forward with doing. Dr. Laszlo, no, probably 24 hours ago, I sent him an email saying this is going to be a one-on-one interview. But then a couple of people asked me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've already told them. Then I said, okay, if we can get a few people on, sure, let's open it up. And that's what we did. So a couple of people inquired, and I sent the invite out to a couple of more people. So here we are. And Dr. Laszlo, of course, was fine with the change. But what I wanted to say from a personal standpoint, since I've met this remarkable human being, a Renaissance man, and there's no question about it. Since I've met him, I have gone online, because that's what I always do. If someone comes into my sphere, I see who I'm talking to. But I've come to, first I thought I was meeting a systems philosopher. Then I read about the musician, and I just listened to his music last night for the first time. Oh my God. You have got to go listen to him playing the piano. I mean, the way it touched my soul, and I even did it this morning, I was calming myself. The music is heavenly. That's the best way I could put it. It resonates the vibrations of your body. So this fine gentleman is becoming to be like a human onion. Every day, every month, I'm beginning to discover different aspects of him. So this is why I use the term Renaissance man, because you know, and he's constantly giving. I won't ask his age, but he's been on this planet. He's been around the sun a few times, I can tell you that. But he's constantly giving. And this is what the formal introduction says, and I'm going to read the short version. I urge you to get the book and read the long version, because when I read the long version, I start discovering organizations and movements, and I know that IFGT has benefited. We've gotten other organizations reached out to us and wanted to partner with us as a result of the relationship. So Ervin Laszlo, Dr. Laszlo, was awarded the state doctorate, the highest PhD from Sorbonne, the University of Paris, in 1970, and received an honorary PhD from the United States, Canada, Finland, and Hungary. He was the recipient of the Peace Prize of Japan, the Goya Award, in 2001, of the International Mandir Peace Prize of Assisi in 2005, and of the Luxembourg World Peace Prize in 2017. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004 and 2005. Dr. Laszlo is the founder and president of the Laszlo Institute of New Paradigm Research. He is also the president of the think tank, the Club of Budapest, and that's going to become one of my favorite think tanks, and I'll tell you why later. He's a fellow of the World Academy of the Art and Science, member of the International Academy of Philosophy of Science, senator of the International Medici Academy, and editor of the international peer-reviewed periodical World Futures, the Journal of New Paradigm Research. He is the author of 66 books, translated into 26 languages, and the editor of another 34 volumes, including a 4-volume encyclopedia. He's a native of Budapest and a US citizen. He lives with Carita, his Finnish-born wife, in Tuscany. So I said that the Club of Buddhism is going to become one of my favorite think tanks, because one of my late mentors was a member, or he was not a member, he presented a report to the Club of Rome. And I had never heard of the Club of Rome. And then when I met Dr. Laszlo again, it comes up again. And turns out he was a member of the Club of Rome. And I asked him on an interview, Dr. Laszlo, why the Club of Budapest? Why not the Club of Rome? And this is what he said to me. He said the club, and I knew this from my late mentor, he said the Club of Rome is an organization that figures out how to solve the world problem. But what they do is they approach it, it's like from the top artists, the top thinkers, the top musicians. And what they don't do is they don't go down where the problems are. They don't include the common people where the problems are. The Club of Budapest, and that's even the town of Budapest got his name. They go out into the world and they have discussions like we're doing now with the common person, and they talk about the problems, and individuals like Dr. Laszlo, who again is a systems philosopher, a systems scientist, and those that have ever dealt with complex systems, whether it's in electronics, whether it's in politics, whether it's teaching a classroom, will understand the value and of understanding systems. So, so without further ado, because I could go on and on talking about Dr. Laszlo, but let's let him talk about not just himself, but talk about his impetus for writing the book, Building a Better World. But Dr. Laszlo, I want to ask you, it was a book that started from Global Shift Now, but you turned it into a manual. Talk to us about your impetus for putting this in manual form, and then talk to us about your impetus for writing this book, because you had just written 2 other books in 2020. You didn't have to write another one, but you felt the need to. So share that with us, please.
It's because of the motto. The motto of this book is together we can. Now, so together we do something that we can. We have to understand what we want to do. We have to share our objectives. So I was eager, and I still am eager, to spell out as much as possible the objectives, the possibilities, the challenges of what faces us at this unique juncture in the history of humankind. I wanted to write a book that's clear, that every sentence could be understood, could be further discussed and developed. It's not a Bible. It's not something that you want to just cite as a dogma. It's a platform for you and me and for all members of your book club to get together and to figure out together yourself what you want to do. One thing I can tell you, and I wanted to be very clear about this, the opportunity is there, the chance is there, and it's up to you and people like you to seize that opportunity. And what I'm so happy to see is that you are joining together freely as an association of responsible, humanistic, ethical people, joining together to cope with the problems that we face. These are historic problems. It's a unique moment in history. It's a chance for us to create our own future. The alternative to it is a dire alternative, going down. But it is what is uppermost in many people's mind, but we don't need to fear. It's not fear, it's the opportunity, it's the courage. The only thing we need to fear is fear itself. Roosevelt said that in his inaugural address. It's still true today. So here we are at a unique moment. Let's wake up, let's get together, let's act, because in a matter of years, we could lay the foundations for a world that is a platform for the life, for the thriving, for the flourishing of all people, and beyond that, even this web of life on this planet. It's a big order, a big project, but it can be done. We are prepared for it. We are sitting on that moment, on that very fulcrum in which the world can change. What we need is just an initial little push, and I'm trying to give a step-by-step description, a manual of how you can reach that little push. And that push can grow up, can nucleate, can amplify. It's like a butterfly, you know, the butterfly effect that blows up and creates a storm on the other side of the planet. And that is how we are facing now this unique chance. So I hope you find this useful, and I try to make it clear. I had the feeling that I should make it as clear as I possibly can. So I didn't hesitate to sit down again and write this. It's up to you to look at it and to ask me happy to reply also in the future. Tell me what you think, tell me what you wish to know from me, but the key is not in me, the key is in you. I'm just hoping to help reach that key that is in you.
Well, thank you for that, Dr. Laszlo. We thank you for that invitation. And on that invitation, I'm going to ask you to clarify a few points, and that's another thing. Every time I read one of your books, I learn a new word that once I read it, it unlocks another part of my brain. And I'm even writing down one now so that I don't forget it. It's not called hierarchy, it's called heterarchy, but that's not the one I'm asking about. The word I want to ask you to clarify, because you talk about, as a systems scientist, you talk about the concept of bifurcation in complex systems and why this term is important for our consciousness now and how it affords us the opportunity to go from where we are now to a new world. So could you help us to understand the concept of bifurcation and what it means for human systems and other systems?
Well, Henry, I'll try. Bifurcation means disruptive change. Change that is not step by step, not one dancing follow in another. Change that is sudden because the moment has come, and the moment has come to decide whether it's collapse or integration, whether it's devolution or evolution. By the way, bifurcation in the technical literature refers to the trajectory, to the evolutionary trend in the evolution of a complex system. These complex systems don't evolve like English gentlemen like Darwin, even at his time, thought they do, step by step. They don't. They reach a critical threshold and then they leap. They either fall back and decay and perhaps disappear, or, as you might say, they might fall forward. They reach the next level. Now, I think we have every chance in the world to fall forward, as it were, because the momentum, the impetus, the drive is in us. That's a great discovery that's coming now from the new sciences, especially quantum sciences. The world is a seamless whole, and this seamless whole has a built-in tendency. Religions would call it God or the great prophet. We call it whatever name, many names have been given. But it's not outside of this world, it's part of it. It's operating within it. So this is a dynamic, goal-oriented, self-evolving universe. Human beings are self-evolving individuals. We are part of this world. Now, the great challenge that we face, the mistake, as it were, that was done typically by the Western leadership society over the past 200, 250 years, is to ignore that there is a deeper drive in us. Look only at the rational objectives, which reduce almost always to money and power. And that was a mistake because we ignored the way that we can cooperate together. It is always me, myself, I come first, I come all together, take into account, that's only me, and the rest doesn't really count, enter into consideration. The big password, especially in the political and the business sphere, is to win. Win an election, win a challenge for selling your products or for finding a new technology to employ, to win. And never mind what you are winning over what you are winning. So there is something, and we now know in the new biology, in the new cosmology, that there is a higher will in this universe. And that's toward integration, toward coherence. And the greatest lesson we can learn is to listen to that. And it's in us. It's really the same will that was motivated you and all our friends here to form a book club, to join together. You had something on which you were drawing. You are drawing on that. You are drawing this inner impetus, this a kind of a higher pulsation in you, moving you toward coherence, toward cooperation. Overcoming these twin mistakes. The universe is a passive realm of matter moving about in space, nothing else. Or life is nothing but a search for power, for fitness, for force. These twin mistakes attached to the name of Newton and to the name of Darwin. Also, they themselves didn't believe it in that way, but the followers did. These have to be overcome. This is a dynamic universe of which you are a part. That's, if we do that, listen to that, and we join together, then we will cooperate, not just compete. Yes, competition is healthy, it's good, but not to outcompete so that they go down the drain, the other side. We have to work together. And this is a great lesson. The chance is there. The moment has come because the old has been disrupted. As I said, bifurcation is a disruptive process. This disruption is good. Chaos is good. It's known as creative chaos in the system sciences. Not permanent chaos, not permanent disruption, but as a stepping stone to something else, as a motivation. So we rise over it, rise above it, the chaos, rise above the challenges, and find the new way forward. The forward which is together, listening to that inner drive toward oneness, toward coherence, expressed as many people, as I'm sure also in your group, tell it and call it, expressed as love, as unconditional love. Not because I want something for myself, but because I can really love, because I feel that that other person, that group, that country, that culture is really a part of me. I'm a part of it. And that is now the new science, the new system science, the new quantum science. And it can be, as it were, put in quotation marks, the new religion. If we do that, that we have the key to create a world in which all can live and all can flourish. I know big claims, but the chance is here. The possibilities are there. We have the resources, we have the technology, we have the know-how. We have not pulled together. We have fragmented this world. So it's time to overcome that fragmentation. Unite beyond or behind a new higher aim, which is to build a coherent, loving, flourishing world. We can do it. We can do it together.
We can indeed do it together. That's what's on the top of your book. Together, we can. So you invoke Darwin, and I want to come back to that because sure we can, but as one of your chapters talked about, we have to learn how to evolve and get away from the fateful business of business as usual. That's what one of your chapters is called. So since you invoked Darwin, I want to put this matter to rest while you're on the call. Darwin's classical motto, as we all on the call are aware of, reads something like this. It says, it is the survival of the fittest. It is the most strong. That's to survive. But in your book, you says Darwin's classical motto need to be revised. It is not the fittest that survives, but the most cooperative. The most cooperative. The most cooperative not only survives, but thrives. So with that point in mind, and then one more point, you talk about the difference in human systems and other complex systems is that the presence of a relatively evolved consciousness. And this gives us the choice. In other words, we have awareness and we have the ability to influence the change. So I don't know if you need to add anything to that, but I wanted to bring that point out because you brought up Darwin, and we know we need to evolve away from this survival of the fittest. We know we need to move toward a cooperative world. And again, the book lays it out, folks. The book lays it out. We're not going to be able to cover it today, but chapter by chapter, I can assure you we're going to have it on spiritual happy hours every Thursday, or not, maybe not every Thursday, but we're going to have points from it. So, Dr. Laszlo, I'm gonna go off of my laid out script of questions, and I'm gonna ask you as a systems philosopher to help us to understand. Most everybody on the call gets it, but I want this is where science meets mysticism, where science meets religion. Help us to understand why we have the power as humans to consciously change this world as it is from a quantum perspective.
Because of a key concept, which is called oneness, which is called coherence. And recognition of this calls for something else, a leap, a forward leap in consciousness. We used to think that we are separate individual beings, only externally connected to others. Sometimes our interests coincide, and then okay, so I can deal with you, with any you in the world. Sometimes they don't coincide, then I can leave you out. This kind of separateness of individuals is a mistake. Einstein said that separateness is an illusion. That's been prompted by our experience of the past world, especially in power politics and in business. This world, as you mentioned, Darwin again, this world is not a struggle for fitness. If fitness would be the objective, why isn't this world then populated uniquely by algae, by simple monocellular organisms? They are the most fit. Moss, there's nothing as fit as that. You can't destroy it. There is a DNA which is absolutely stable on the simplest organisms. But life has evolved further, and it keeps evolving beyond fitness. The biosphere is full of species that are searching, exploring new niches, the deep oceans, extinct volcanoes, the atmosphere, higher regions. Anywhere you look, there are trials. There are trials and errors starting up, forms of life. In the cosmos, we now find the new astrophysics. We actually can observe and note that the organic molecules are near active stars. And nobody would have thought, even a few years ago, that anything resembling a complex molecule, organic molecule, could survive. But life is a search. It's closer to the search, what the Eastern great mystical and traditional systems call it, a search for harmony. We can call it a search for coherence, a search for love, a search for oneness. This is in us. It's not imagination, it's part of us. The great physicist Max Planck said, who has been one of the greatest physicists of the late 20th, early 21st century. He said, after all these years of studying the atom, I can tell you that there is a higher will, a higher consciousness is involved. Otherwise, how would the proton find the neutron? How would it attract electrons in such a way that they form a system? It's not just a heap and an agglomerate. An atom is a complex system. It maintains itself. And it cooperates through the balance of the atoms, so these open electrons trajectories with other atoms, and they create molecules. The molecules can create crystals and macromolecules, and ultimately they create cells. The cells create organisms. The organisms create forms of life, the higher life, such as whole ecologies, entire cultures, entire societies. This drive from the proton and the neutron in the hydrogen atom, starting there, to the entire biosphere, is a seeking of wholeness, is a strive toward oneness. We feel that, I'm sure members of this book club feel that, otherwise we wouldn't be joining together to tackle problems together. This is in us. It's a very simple remedy. Go look to yourself. The authority of what you need to do is in you, not outside of you. Listen to what outside people are telling you, but then don't necessarily accept anything. Accept it if it checks with you, check with your inner feeling, confirmation. Yes, this is right. Then go ahead. If you have doubts, inquire. Think about it. No outright rejection, because everything could have a positive side to it. But look after things. Become a thinker. Become a deeper thinker. We all do that. We are not blind mice or soldiers, simply tin soldiers following rules. We have our own inner decider, the inner judgment. So the prescription for me is, the biggest prescription is, listen to yourself. And as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. You can be the change. Many people are already the change. I see many movements, and I'm describing some of them in this book, many movements toward finding a higher unit, a higher coherence, higher levels of cooperation, creating a better world together. It's not imagination. Let me just add one word here. In about a month's time from now, there's going to be a new platform on the internet, a very major platform, starting to be as ambitious as Facebook and YouTube. And this is going to be called People Together. I serve as the counsel, as an advisor to this platform. I am sure that this will make possible for young people, for anybody to join and find like-minded people with whom we can join together, not just to chat, to amuse ourselves, but to find the ways together, the way to go. This is happening. All kinds of new instruments are being born to help us to cooperate, a better integral policy in the United States. I'm hopeful that this is the case. I think that now, at the international level, we find, and for example, leaving the European Union by England, in the retrospect, was not such a good idea. Now we are trying to make it good again in some way. So treaties, but cooperation, there is no substitute for cooperation. You know it, I know it. And if you act on that basis, you will find a way forward.
Thank you for that. That's a very powerful admonition that you are putting to us, and everyone on this call knows it. Become a deeper thinker. Think for yourself. And so on this particular point, to help us with that, in one of the chapters here in the book, it's chapter 5, your role in building a better world. And this is one of those chapters, I tell you, that is replete with how-tos. And I'm gonna, Dr. Laszlo, allow me to just read off a couple of them right now, and then we can talk about them. But this is what Dr. Laszlo is intimating is becoming a deeper thinker. One of the starts he talks about it here is question your beliefs. And he talks about the Club of Budapest that did a sort of a report in 2004. And it asked the question, there were certain practices that they call paradoxical and sometimes even irrational, but yet they shape our world. So the council asked questions such as, Where is the wisdom? And this is what I want everybody on the call to think about. Where is the wisdom in a system that produces weapons that are more dangerous than the conflicts they are meant to solve? Where is the wisdom in a system that creates an overproduction of food, but fails to make it available to those who are hungry? Where is the wisdom in a system that allows half of the world's children to live in poverty and millions of them to suffer hunger? And again, we've rationalized this obviously for decades, and not just decades, but centuries and eons. But let's talk more about the more modern world. We've rationalized this, but here we are in 2020. Where's the wisdom in a system that fails to appreciate and make use of the sensitivity, care, and sense of solidarity women bring to the family and the community, and could bring to politics and business? And we're seeing that. Where is the wisdom that in a system that faces a gamut of tasks and challenges, yet puts more people out of work? Where's the wisdom? So these are some of the things that, where's the wisdom in the system that gives full priority to maximizing the productivity of labor, even though millions are unemployed or underemployed, rather than improving the productivity of resources, notwithstanding the most natural resources are finite? Where's the wisdom in the system that requires unrelenting economic and financial growth just to function and not to crash? Now, I could go on and read more of these, but they're in the book. Then there are 6 cardinal beliefs. I'm not going to read all of them, but I just want to give you a taste of them. These are beliefs that we need to question. The cult of efficiency. I must get the maximum out of every person, every machine, every organization, regardless of what is produced and whether or not it serves a useful purpose. The newer is better. Anything that is new is better than almost anything that we've even last year. My country, right or wrong, come what may, or my political party, or my whatever, my culture, right or wrong, come what may, I owe unwavering allegiance only to one flag and one government. So these are some cardinal beliefs that Dr. Laszlo challenges us to examine. 6 obsolete assumptions. The environment is an inexhaustible reservoir of resources. Life is a struggle where only the fittest survive. We've talked about that one. Nature is a giant mechanism. These are obsolete assumptions that we need to examine. The market distributes the benefits. We don't have time to go into the details of all these, but all of you on the call could resonate and relate to 1 or 2 of these. The more you consume, the better you are. And it may not be you, but it may be someone that you're having dialogue with in the workplace or in other organizations. So it's incumbent, as Dr. Laszlo says, for us to become deep thinkers as a member of this book club, as a member of IFGT, as a member of the global community, so that we can get clearer insight on this. And this is what this manual does, the Global Shift Manual does. It gives us these insights. If you don't already have them, if you need some clarity in your thinking, go to the book. The book outlines these things, and as Dr. Laszlo said, don't take his word, internalize them, think for yourself, make it your own, and how can you use it? So these are some of the faulty tenets that we as humanity have lived with. And Dr. Laszlo goes on to tell us to adopt your aspirations. And he gives us a short checklist for adopting our aspirations. And I'll mention a couple of those. And Dr. Laszlo, I'll let you make comments on live with diversity. Let's see here. Well, let me say there is a list of aspirations you can adopt. What does it mean to adopt these? Then he gives us 10 commandments for living in a world with diversity. So for sake of time, I'm not going to go on reading these. They're all in the book. this is why it's like a manual. This is not like you read it one time and you're done. It's something you can go through every day, even in the midst of some of the things that are taking place in the country right now. We can go to the book, the manual, and get some insight from a systems perspective. From Dr. Laszlo is a systems scientist, a systems philosophy. And you introduced another term, Dr. Laszlo, and I want you to talk about that term. Now I'll come back to the whole systems, because when I saw it for my first time in my life, I thought about it, and it was fortunately I studied and I got a degree in electronic engineering. So when I saw it, I thought about a schematic on the page. The word is, rather than hierarchy, it's heterarchy. And I want you to explain that word to us on the call, because when I saw that, I recalled the days when I would design a system on paper using a schematic, or I would look at a schematic. And it occurred to me an electronic system, or not just electronic system, because when we installed MRIs or positron emission tomography scanners, we had magnetic systems in there. We had hydraulic systems in there. We had, in some cases, radioactive generators for the positrons generator. So, but all these were different systems. We had photoelectronics in there to be able to read the photons. All of these were systems and important pieces of the system, but guess what? None of them were no more important than any other aspect of the system. There was not, someone would say, well, you need the voltage to turn it on, so the voltage is more important. But yeah, the voltage just sitting there doing nothing is just potential. So this concept of heterarchy, I think for me, and I know we're getting close to the hour, but this, I think I'll let this word here kind of take us into the question. This heterarchy concept puts it into perspective how important every aspect of society is. So it's incumbent upon us to, like I tell myself these days, not to judge, not to criticize, but to understand every element. So Dr. Laszlo, could you talk about heterarchy and why the importance of it? And then after that, I'm going to open it up to questions if anyone has questions. If not, I'll continue to ask questions as long as, and then we'll wrap up at the top of the hour if that's okay with you, Dr. Laszlo.
Okay, fine. Well, to make the point very clear, a hierarchical system has a single unilateral flow of information. It's from top to bottom. It doesn't go up again. It goes from the highest level to the lowest level. One system dominates and controls two systems, two controls four, four controls eight, and so on. A hierarchy is typically operated from above, from a center of power or a center of generating information. Now, a heterarchy is where the information flows in both directions and it accepts more than one focal point, not just one. So a system that's heterarchic, you can say, has many impulses, has many centers of power, and the parts lower down on the system influence the upper parts as well as being influenced by it. Think of an army. An army is largely hierarchic, not hierarchical. The general commands, the colonel and the lieutenants, and the sergeant, and then the privates come at the end of the chain. And the privates don't command the sergeant, and the sergeant, the lieutenants, and so on. So a heterarchic system has a two-way flow of information. The church, the classical church, is sometimes hierarchic in that the wisdom is said to be concentrated on the highest level. But modern business already learned the importance of listening to what people have to say and getting information flowing in both directions. Sometimes the best ideas come from the people who work on the ground. So hierarchic system, many centers of power, two-way flow of information. Hierarchy, one center of power, information flowing only from the top to the bottom. That's really the gist of it.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do now is we've had a nice brief conversation with Dr. Laszlo. Some of you have had some thoughts. So if you have any questions, let's go ahead, unmute yourself and ask the question. Just ask it directly to Dr. Laszlo. If you have a point that you want to elaborate on, go ahead and do that. So let's start now.
Dr. Laszlo, the feeling I get when you speak, by the way, it's an honor to be in your audience. The feeling I get when you speak about the movement from where we have been to where we are going, the movement from separation to integration, I get the sense that this is an evolutionary movement. You know, it's not that, I mean, yes, where we have been has been short-sighted, but it's a short-sightedness because of lack of experience. It's a short-sightedness that we had to learn through our mistakes. It's an evolutionary progressive movement that's causing this arc, so to speak, of moving from the foibles of lack of knowledge to an awareness that we are all one, that we are integrated, and that we must be integrated, and that diversity is positive, not negative, you know, all of those things. I just wanted to put that out there. It feels like it's an evolutionary movement. What do you feel about that?
Well, I'm so glad you raised this. I should have mentioned this. You know, my previous book that Andy was talking about, it's called, subtitle is A Call for Evolution. And also in this book, I'm an evolutionary thinker. Well, sure, I'm a system scientist, but evolution acts on systems. We are all evolving systems. And sure, there is a logic to the unfolding of an arc, as you say. Yes, we are moving forward, but the forward move is not little by little, step by step. It goes by leaps and bounds, and through challenges, and through meeting the challenges, through trial and error, you see. And this is all a movement, part of the movement. It's not by accident that we are here. It's not by accident that you are joining this group and talking about these things. Because it's all now has to be uppermost in our mind. This has to be the big challenge, to realize that we are in a process of evolutionary change. A bifurcation in a complex system is toward coherence, toward oneness, toward integration, toward acceptance of the multiplicity of power centers, toward hierarchy. That's all part of the game. We are in it. We have always been in it as a human species. Only the system was so slow, the change was so slow. It took generations to unfold. We can see it in retrospect. But now, with information flowing all over the world simultaneously, the change is very fast. And we see it. We see this evolutionary unfolding around us. We feel it, we sense it, and we can go with it. It's like young people say, go with the force, as they say in Star Wars. You know? And the force, as I mentioned, is in us. The force is the evolutionary impetus toward higher integration, toward oneness, towards what we can express as unconditional love, love of the electron for the neutron, and the love of both of them for the higher molecule, you see, and they created together. So this is in us. Thanks for raising it. Indeed, I couldn't agree anymore. We are part of an evolutionary process, And it's time to become conscious of that and to act on it consciously. That's the way forward.
Thank you, Dr. Laszlo. Other questions or comments?
I have a question. Hi,
Yes.
Dr. Laszlo. It's nice
Hello.
to see you again. And I'm saying again because you wouldn't recall, but of course it's very memorable for me that we met at Bill Gladstone's book party at the Yale Club 10 years ago, speaking of evolution. And you were kind enough to give me, through Bill, an endorsement for my book, Do You Quantum Think? So thank you very much for that. And I want you to just say one other personal thing is that your thoughts, since I have several of your books, but Science and the Akashic Field, I think that's the name of it, right?
Yes.
Has been a one of the books that has most influenced me in my life and in my thinking. So I thank you for all that wisdom that continues and your wisdom is accelerating. Now, I do have a question about as the systems and structures are changing now, and as we're talking about, conscious evolution, I'm wondering in any of your think tanks or wherever you're participating, how are you engaging with other people about the conscious evolution of specifically the economic structure of our world? And obviously it's different in different countries, but it's a very, we can see that this whole monetary system is undergoing what I think will be even faster, rampant change. And just want to hear your thoughts on how we can actually influence how that goes rather than, let the chips fall where they may kind of thing. You have any thoughts about that?
Well, thank you for raising this. It's absolutely crucial. Economic growth is not the panacea. It's not the cure-all for everything. Depends on how you use it. And to sacrifice everything just so the economy can grow is a big mistake. The economy has to serve people, but as it operates now, people are made to serve the economy. The sense of money is worth something if it earns more money. And so it's a self-serving thing. It doesn't mean that it means something if it's good for people. It has to generate itself. The whole financial system is built on accumulation of money, of funds, of the powers of the influence and of the system has to always grow in order just to survive, has to keep growing. So this is a very one-sided, limited approach. I'm working together at the present time with an economist whom a woman of tremendous intellectual capacity. He is a Henderson. Perhaps you have seen her. She's devoted her whole life to trying to develop alternative economic systems. We couldn't do it in the past. The system was so strong. Now the system, the ruling system, the dominant system has been a bit uprooted because we are questioning now, and many people are questioning whether we should go back to that system or try something else. So there is an opening in front of us. So certainly, I'm not an economist. The economy is a very technical kind of a field, but I can join people together to help with that. I have founded an institution called the Laszlo Institute for New Paradigm Research, and we are having economists cooperating in that. We will be having seminars and symposia on the topic of economic growth, how to integrate the economy into society, how to integrate business interests so they serve society and not only serve themselves. So thank you. Yes, indeed. We are trying to deal with that. It's a very key question.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, if we're approaching the top of the hour, and I want to be respectful of Dr. Laszlo's time. If I will entertain one more question. If there's not a question I would like him to close out on an issue. Well, let me pause. Are there any questions or comments?
Henry, could we just, Dr. Laszlo, could you please tell us again the name of the new platform and any other information that we might be able to find out about it? I started to make notes, and I know it starts with the word people, but I don't remember the full title.
It's People Together.
Oh, of course.
You already find an announcement of it, but it's going to launch next month. And for technical reasons, avoiding unfair competition or misinformation or whatever, they don't want to put it on a big publicity level at this time. But it will launch next month. You'll hear about it. In the meanwhile, if you want to have any further information, I can supply it. I'm happy to help with that.
Great, thank you.
Henry, I have a question. This is Alan.
Yes, go ahead, Alan.
Dr. Laszlo, thank you. This is Alan Collins, and Diane's husband. And I had a thought as you were speaking about systems. And I think, do you consider that it would be valid to make a distinction between systems, which I think, and maybe you could correct me here or put some other thought on it. I think that systems, by their very nature, are all-inclusive. It can't really be a system if it excludes something. And so when we speak about a hierarchical system does not include everything. So is it really a system? Is it maybe just a process, or maybe some other term for it? But, I'm thinking, is it important to make a distinction between what actually a system is versus just using the term system when it may be really not a system, because by the very fact that it does not include everything?
That's an excellent point indeed. I think it's worth developing that. Just a thought. I like to specify that when I speak about systems. I speak about systems that emerge, not as a part of a human artifact, like a watch, for example. It's not a mechanism. It's something that evolves, something that emerges. So that I usually specify, I mean natural systems. But of course, society in that sense, nobody designed society. Nobody sat down and said, this is what it is. It comes together in history, and it generates itself, it grows, diversifies, or it decays and disappears. But that's everything that is acting in the world today, acting and evolving, is a natural system. And that has to, in principle, it should include everything. If it doesn't, it can't really exclude it, but that it's a faulty system. That is something is wrong with it. It's like a healthy organism includes every cell and all the information. If there are a group of cells that are not included in this network of the organism, then that organism is sick, is ill. And the group of cells just keeps evolving itself without connection with the rest of the organism, then it's a cancer. So a system that doesn't include everything is a faulty, flawed system. So I would say, yes, a natural system is totally inclusive. And I would say it's a system in which all elements are connected, sensitively connected to every other element. This is what we mean by a coherent. Natural systems are coherent. And we have to learn that. And if you want to flourish, thrive in this world, then we have to live in natural systems, which are all inclusive, which are connected, which are sensitive to each other, and which together reach higher and higher levels of integration.
Thank you.
Dr. Laszlo, I wanted to thank you so very much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us today. I know all of us at the IFGT are very grateful for everything that you've shared with us, your wonderful books, especially this manual. I think it is going to be something so very valuable to everyone in the world. So thank you from all of us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being brought into this circle. I value it. I treasure it. I'd love to continue with you. I think together we can, yes, indeed.
Yes, we
Let's
can.
put it into practice. Let's put it into practice.
I totally agree. Thank you so very much.
Well, on that note, we're going to begin to wrap up. Dr. Laszlo, you just no, you didn't invite yourself. You just joined our circle, and I appreciate that. And so we will continue to draw on your wisdom. The book club meets, for those that are on the call, monthly on the fourth Saturday. So this is, as I said, this is a special meeting today, and one that was well worth it. And it occurs to me these may happen again. So we don't want to dismiss that. So having said that, Dr. Laszlo, I will give you the opportunity to have closing remarks and closing words. And then I will allow you, if you choose, to exit the call, and we'll have a few closing points with the book club, talk about upcoming things, and we'll call it a day. So Dr. Laszlo, closing remarks from you.
So I call it an evening, and I know dinner is waiting because I have way ahead of you, at least in terms of a time zone.
Sure.
Living in Tuscany in Italy. Let me say that I enjoyed this hour together with you. I appreciate your concern that you have. I am very gratified that you find a new book of interest. I should add that we just heard a mention of my book on the science of the Akashic field, that my next book to be published is a publication date of March 9th. It's the same publisher as the Reconnecting to the Source, namely St. Martin's Press. It's called The Immutable Laws of the Akashic Field. So I'm going back to that argument and try to develop it also. So anytime you find that concept of an Akashic field of interest, you'll have a whole book available for your discussion. Anyway, just remain with this book. We live at a critical point, at a historic point, and I think very important, more than just a personal pleasure. I think it's really an honor to be part of a group like yours. I try to live up to it, and I know that if I write something meaningful, and if it gets a response like this, then it was well worth it. So I'll try it again. Thank you. Thanks all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Laszlo. And let's everyone unmute yourself and say bid farewell to Dr. Laszlo. It's dinner time. It's way past, it's probably a couple hours past dinner time in Tuscany. So go ahead and unmute yourself and say your farewells.
Thank you so
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Ciao,
Doctor. Thank
grazie
you.
mille.
Stay healthy.
Thanks for sharing an evening in Tuscany. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Dr. Laszlo.
All of you.
All right, Dr. Laszlo, thank you. I'll let you go ahead and technically prepare yourself, remove yourself from the call and prepare for dinner, and we'll move.
And for your meticulous preparation for this, also last time and this time. I really know what you're talking about, what we are talking about. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you both, Dr. Laszlo and Henry.